John Bryant serves as the CEO of Christ's Home, based in Warminster, PA. Christ's Home is a Christian non-for-profit organization providing services to disadvantaged children and senior adults. John is a graduate of Crowne University and has served in leadership roles for 40 years in the church, parachurch, and social service sectors. Would you welcome John with me?
Thank you, Paul. Good morning, everyone. It's a privilege to be with you today. As a non-for-profit, our mission is essential and foundational to what we do. At Christ's Home, the word love is actually in our mission statement, and in a list of words that serve to characterize how we serve people. The four words encompass foundational biblical principles, and they are love, dignity, compassion, and respect. It's interesting to note that these words embody exactly how God treats us, not as our sins deserve. Loving God in our workplace means, among other things, that I lead in both word and deed, that it is God's love which motivates me to serve others, and that I do so out of a sincere love for God in response to all that He has done for me and all that He has done for our organization. Hopefully, staff see and hear that this is my motivation, which hopefully points them to a much higher calling of honoring God in all that we do, as opposed to just following me just because I'm the leader. I'm not the central focus, though this is admittedly hard to balance because people look to me as the leader, and if you're in the leadership role in your organization, you know what that feels like. I'm not, God is, and we need to keep all that in balance and focus. We are in our 117th year of continuous service to disadvantaged children and our 96th year of serving senior adults. So we've been around, we've seen God lead us faithfully and meet our needs faithfully. I'm not 117 years old, by the way. So the organization certainly transcends me as a person. Loving others in our workplace unfolds every day, hopefully by each person we employ. Each person has a role and a responsibility. My role is different than others, so my perspective is different and then say a dishwasher or a housekeeper, a house parent, or a nursing assistant. I may not be hands-on with the people we serve, but I still have a responsibility to love others. This includes the people we serve, our staff, our vendors, my direct team members, our board, our donors, and many in the general community. So I'd like to share with you a couple of ways in which I think that unfolds in our organization. Maybe it'll be an encouragement to you. Some practical ways in which we serve the staff who work at Christ's Home. Some things we've added in recent years that have helped to do that. About 2 years ago, we began a conversation with Paul and Amy to come and serve as corporate chaplains with our staff. That may sound kind of strange in a Christian not-for-profit, that we needed corporate chaplains, but we did. We had staff chaplains who were serving our senior adult community residents, but we wanted to do something specifically for our staff, and so we added that. It'll be 2 years coming up in July. Because 80% of our employees are female, I definitely wanted a husband-wife team as corporate chaplains. Because guys, believe it or not, ladies don't always want to open up to us about what's going on in their life, but they open up very well to Amy. And that, no offense to Paul, but that's a fact, right? I know that's shocking to you, isn't it? It's a shock. And by the way, if you don't have this going on in your company, I encourage you to do it. And you need to give it some time. I would say, in all honesty, the first year, people weren't sure that we were going to be honest about confidentiality. They weren't sure they could trust it. And we are now in our second year, and we are seeing some great fruit taking place in the spiritual life of our people. And so thank you, Paul and Amy, for what you're doing. Last year, we instituted, with the board's approval, a employee hardship fund. Simple thing. There's limited dollars available, but employees that all of a sudden find that, man, the transmission just dropped out of my car, or whatever, they can apply for grants of up to $750 to help them get through that. We actually had an employee came to me after we announced that and just said, thank you, I can't believe you guys are doing this for us. I may not ever use it, but wow, this is really, really cool. So that had a blessing to them in that regard. How about the wonderful world of health insurance? We're in our process right now this week of finalizing our budget for next year. Our fiscal year starts July 1st. And we went back into some calculations over the last 3 or 4 years. As a company, our cost for health insurance premium, I don't know what yours is, we just realized ours is up over the last 3 years about 40%. We've passed virtually none of that on to our staff. We've absorbed that. And so that's a way of blessing them. And this year, we sent each of our employees for the first time an individualized letter outlining for them what their pay and their benefits are and what that's actually. And it's interesting, we had a number of staff come and say, wow, I really had no idea what it was really costing Christ's Home to keep me employed. So that serves a very positive purpose. This one's kind of really simple, but it's one that's really near and dear to my heart. I became a CEO at Christ's Home about 5.5 years ago. One of the things that I did that I thought was a very practical way of showing love and care to our staff was to do something very simple: send them flowers. Now, that sounds like a very simple thing, but they had never done this before. Maybe you do it. Hope you do it. It's really, really simple. So if they have a birth in their family, the obvious one, a passing in their family, or they have some other special event, they complete an education or something of that nature, we send flowers. And we probably send a flower arrangement out maybe now every other week. It's not like every day. And very, very interesting, I'll tell you this. About a year into doing that, in a management team meeting, one of our veteran staff members who've been in the organization for a long time and who very sincerely believes in godly stewardship of God's resources at a not-for-profit organization called Christ's Home, and is frugal, to put it kindly, was grumbling about this and thinking that we were wasting God's money. We were not being good stewards. And when I got done explaining, so I took a few moments to explain to that person that we were actually spending in this little program 0.1% of our annual revenues to do this. Okay? That's all. 0.1%. Okay? Excuse me, that's wrong. 1% of 1% is what we were spending. Okay? Very small amount of money. I said, we are stewarding relationships for a small amount of money. And I'll give you a quick story on this. About 2.5 years ago, we had a new lady join our staff. She was about 60 days in, and she had a very significant emergency, was taken to the hospital, was in intensive care for a couple of days, a cardiac issue. She rebounded. She was out of work for about 2 weeks. When she got out of intensive care, we sent the flower arrangement in, get well. She called the next day back to her supervisor and says, I can't believe this. This lady's middle-aged. She said, I have never had an employer send me flowers for any reason. Christ's Home's honestly living out its mission. That lady still works for us now 2.5 years later, and I think she'd go through a brick wall for us, and it's not because we pay her well and give her great benefits. It's because we sent her a stinking $50 flower arrangement to say get well. It's really that simple. It's a simple way of loving people. Okay, enough of that. How do we love those we serve? We have a mission to serve people at both ends of the age continuum, the youngest and the oldest in our society. The youngest person we serve right now is a baby boy that was born on Valentine's Day. I got to see him yesterday. He's so cute. And the oldest person we serve is a lady in our skilled nursing unit, and she's 107 years old. And we get the joy of doing both of those things. Loving the kids is easy. We just love the, I mean, how do you not love kids who have been removed from their home because their world's imploded and because their family hasn't taken care of them? I mean, that's easy. If you can't do that, then check your pulse. Something else is wrong. Seniors, on the other hand, some days I'm not sure which group is the more childish. No, I'm teasing. Many of our seniors are wonderful. They have paved the world in which you and I get to enjoy and live in. And we need to honor them and respect them. God's word makes it clear. I want to tell you real quick a story of one of my favorite ladies that I had an opportunity to develop a relationship with. Life on life, loving people where they're at. Her name is Elsie. She came to stay in our retirement community in the skilled nursing unit about 5 months after I arrived at Christ's Home 8.5 years ago. Interestingly, she was one of 4 ladies in our healthcare center whose daughters and son-in-laws also lived in our retirement community in independent living. So we had, at one time, 4 family groups, 2 generations living in the same retirement community, which was kind of cool. Elsie is a neat lady. She was very frail, but everything from the neck up worked in perfect order. The brain, the eyes, the ears, and especially the mouth. I would come in the morning, she hadn't seen me for a few days. I'd come through breakfast service. She'd look at me. Elsie's originally from New Jersey. She'd say, "Where you been?" And you translate that from New Jersey, and it means, "Do you work here? Do you actually work?" I'm like, "Where you been?" And Elsie was styling. Okay, she loved color. She'd get her nails done with all that glittery stuff on them. She had very flowery dresses and clothing. She had these rainbow-colored socks with each toe a different color. She loved it. And I would wear, back then in those days, I would wear these white dress shirts, business shirts. And she said, "Oh, John, it's so boring. You need some color in your life." Well, a couple of years after that, I got a new suit, and the person that helped me with the suit picked out this beautiful, I was going to wear it today, but you'll understand why in a minute why I didn't, yellow shirt. And I walked in, she goes, "Oh, that's beautiful." And she looks at me, and she turns her head, and she goes, "Can I say this at a Christian breakfast? You look so sexy in that shirt." The words John Bryant and sexy had never gone together before that. And you haven't lived until a 95-year-old lady tells you look sexy, let me tell you. A couple years later, my wife was with me for an event. I introduced her to Elsie, and she says, "Oh, nice to meet you, Janelle. It's great. Hey, by the way, get rid of the white shirts. But that yellow shirt, he's sexy." To my wife, she says this. The truth of the matter is, when I brought that shirt home from the store, my wife can't stand that shirt. Elsie passed away a year ago at the age of 98. A few weeks shy of her 99th birthday. Her funeral was on a Saturday morning. I was one of the first people there. I'm coming down the corridor towards the vestibule of the auditorium. Her daughter, who's one of our residents, as I mentioned, sees me coming, and she goes, "You wore Elsie's shirt." I said, "Of course I wore Elsie's shirt." And I gave her daughter a big hug, and we miss Elsie. She was so I just share that with you. And I share all that to finish by saying this. When I was a student in college, one of our professors used to close class with prayer. And the last sentence of his prayer every class session was this: "And Lord, help us to be a blessing to somebody today." God has given us today. He's going to bring people into your life and my life, people that you work with, people who work for you, and the people that your companies and your churches and your ministries serve. God wants you to be a blessing to them. Love them today because God has loved us. Thank you very much. God bless. Have a great day.